Yep, you're good.
Okay, so this is chapter 10, section 10.3, and or 10.4, I guess, and we're talking about taste and smell, your senses of taste and smell. So the sense of smell we start with, it's called olfaction. If you ever hear the word olfaction, that's olfactory. Olfaction means smell. And so here's basically how it works. You have nostrils, and when you smell something, molecules from whatever you're smelling go up your nostrils. And you have a whole bunch of cells at the roof of your nasal cavity. Chris, you with me here?
Yes.
You seem as if you're looking on your phone. There's a whole bunch of cells at the top of your nasal cavity, and if you want a close look at it, here they are right here, and they're called olfactory receptor cells. And they have little extensions coming off of them, and those little extensions right there are studded with proteins. Proteins that act as receptors that can receive the smell molecules. So if you want to look up closely at these little extensions here, I could draw it bigger for you. And so these here's the cell body up here, and it's got these extensions, or what we call cilia, just kind of sticking out. And each one has little protein receptors. And it has different shaped receptors, you see. And various receptors receive various signals. And so, let's say this is a smell molecule. This smell molecule might be floating around. It's not going to stick inside that. It's not going to stick inside that. But it does stick inside that. Let me draw it a little bigger. That's got the right shape. And when it sticks there, a nerve signal is sent to the brain saying, oh, I am detecting whatever this molecule is in the nose. And if that molecule is something that maybe comes off of food, you might get a good smell. If that molecule is something that comes off crap, you might get a bad smell. Because food is something you want to eat, and crap is something you need to avoid, or else you get diseases and such. But you have all this pre-programmed. There's several thousand different smells that you can sense.
7,000?
Several thousand. I don't know exactly how many. I think there's some research going on to figure that out. But it's basically however many different shaped receptors you have can sense all these different smells.
So you can only smell things that your body will enable you to. So if you were like missing some of the smell receptors, you just...
That's correct. If you're missing some of the smell receptors, you won't be able to smell as much. And you can damage your smell receptors too.
Oh.
Cocaine, stuff like that. Whatever y'all are doing at your parties. Get stuff in your nose that can damage these proteins, and damage these nerve cells. You won't be able to smell things as well. There's all types of chemicals out there that you should, avoid getting in your nasal cavity.
So do dogs just have like way more of that?
Yeah. See, so a dog has a real long nose, right? And so the roof of our nose has a little patch, that big there. The roof of a dog's nose might be 10 times as long, and it can sense. It can probably sense more different kinds of smells, and it can definitely sense smaller amounts of chemicals. So you might have to get 1,000 of molecules of something up your nose to be able to detect it, where a dog might be able to detect it just with a few molecules, because they have so many sensors like that. And that's why dogs have better smell than people. People have kind of lost their sense of smell over the years of evolution, because most smell molecules are heavy, and they hang out around the ground. And so when humans started walking upright, however many million years ago, 5 million years ago, the nose was far removed from the ground, and so we couldn't pick up much sensation from having our nose way up in the air, and no use having a great sense of smell. Better to concentrate on sight, hearing, and other things. Yes?
So there's a freshman named Graham Olivieri or something who can't smell.
Yeah.
He's just not having any of those sensors.
Yeah, well, it could be. It could be there's something wrong with the sensors here. It could be there's something wrong with the nerve up here. See, these will fire a nerve signal here, and then these will fire it to the brain. So it could be something wrong with this big thing right here. It's called the olfactory bulb.
Okay.
And maybe that's messed up or something. Could also have a problem in the brain itself. If there's an area of your brain where the signals go to sense smell, and maybe that's not working right. So I don't know. It depends. There's a lot of ways this
Go in a
system
month,
can
like,
recognize.
see, like, the person who's gonna, like, maybe get his smell back. I don't know, there's some, like, doctors.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it might be something with this nerve here is detached.
Nobody's ever had it.
Oh, as a hunter.
No, I don't know.
It'd be such a great feeling.
I bet, like, there's, like, a doctor who's gonna, like, be able to get it back, so.
I don't know. You can smell.
That's like there's videos of people, kids getting cochlear implants,
Yeah,
and when they turn it on and they hear it for the first time, they're like,
They're like, whoa!
Yeah.
Never experienced this.
just little 2-year-old.
Okay. Taste works similarly. On your tongue, there's a bunch of little dots. You've seen them. They're called papillae. But those aren't your taste buds. People think these bumps on your tongue are your taste buds. But if you look at a papillae, it looks like this, kind of this circular. You see all these. If you looked up close on the surface of the tongue under the microscope, you would see a bunch of these bumps. And what they are, what it is, there's on these bumps, there's big grooves that go down into the bump. If you're a little microscopic man walking on the surface here, you'd slide down, whoa, when you go to the bottom. You'd be like, why am I walking on this giant tongue? Now, on the way down, as you slid down this little slide right here, you might try to grab onto the sides. And it's the sides, so let's say you're sliding down the side here. It's the sides here, there are these special cells that stick out right here. Oh, there we go. These cells right here. They're called taste cells. And they have little hairs on them, little cilia, just like this. Again, with receptors that if you're eating something, let's say you're eating some sugar, we all like sugar, it sticks to the receptor, and then the receptor fires a signal to the brain saying, there's sugar on your tongue. And you, I like that. Or there's crap on your tongue. I don't like that. Spit that out.
Is it true about like the different parts of your tongue that taste different things?
There was some research that went on like in the 50s that said that the tip of your tongue can taste sweet, and the sides taste salt, and the back tastes sour, something like that. And that research was actually flawed. But it was the only experiment that had ever been done, and then no one really tested it. It wasn't reproduced, and they put it in textbooks and such. It's not actually true. To some extent, there might be more salt sensory in one area than the other, but for the most part, you can taste all tastes everywhere on the tongue. And they just recently figured out that was a bad experiment. And it had existed in the textbooks for like 60 years. I learned it when I was a kid. I remember when I first started teaching, I tried to set up that experiment. I could have figured it out. And I had different tastes, salty, salt water and sugar water, and I had Q-tips, and they tipped the Q-tip in there and touched different parts of their tongue. And I couldn't get the experiment to work because they were all saying they could taste it no matter where they touched it. And I was just like, oh well, I guess I'm doing it wrong or something. If I would If I would have followed that up, I'd be famous for disproving that experiment. I never did. Oh well. Okay, so anyway, so this bunch of cells right here, see how these taste cells are in kind of a group? And that's what a taste bud is, a group of these taste cells. There's taste cells, and then there's other cells around them that support them. And so a big group of taste cells and supporting cells, that's a taste bud. And so the taste buds are on the walls of these papillae as you go down the walls of these papillae. That's where the taste buds are. So this whole thing, that's a papillae. And all these little dots here, those are taste buds. And that's up close to the taste bud. Are we good? These are called taste cells. I've seen them called gustatory cells. Have y'all ever heard that word gustation? That has to do with taste. But apparently your book's not using it. Is that all? Let me see if that's all. I think I have some video footage here. The 5 tastes: sweet, sour, salt, bitter, and umami.
Umami. Umami.
Umami, a Japanese term meaning delicious, a response to certain amino acids and their chemical relatives such as monosodium glutamate. Some investigators recognize other taste sensations, alkaline and metallic. I can see that.
What alkaline tastes like?
I don't know. I can see things having a metallic taste.
Mm-hmm.
Blood kind of does.
Yeah.
Or metal.
Right.
Yeah. Umami.
It's a short section.
The restaurant called
Let
umami.
me show you a little video footage and then we'll do IDs.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see
The bottom
here.
third fell out at lunch. From the bottom third. I could fall out. Like I was eating the chicken and it got completely stuck
Oh my
in there.
God, that
So like
sucks.
top one roll off. So I had to pull the rest of them off.
You get it,
Oh, here we
It
go.
doesn't hurt. I have the bottom one. I didn't need to fall off either, but
Ow.
didn't hurt. She said you might be able to. Yeah, I'll just go and get it glued back on.
Yeah. I mean, better
You
get
probably
just
have
get
to-
for Saturn, be able to break.
Yeah.
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 You take the whole thing off.
She'll put you in that pottery.
Yeah. Just let her push on the can.
All our senses have
Quiet,
developed the
please.
ability to detect an amazing variety of stimuli with extreme sensitivity. Take smell, for example. We smell things because they release molecules into the air. So when she draws air into her nose to breathe, it carries with it thousands of molecules of frying sausage. In the nose, the air travels towards a patch of sensitive cells that can detect smells. In this unusual X-ray, we can see both the skull and the flesh of the head. The air with the sausage molecules passes over the lining of the nasal passages. Patches of this lining are sensitive to smell molecules. From the nose to the lung, the passages are lined with cells like these, covered with many tiny hairs that sweep backwards and forwards in a layer of mucus. Some of these hairs are specialized to detect smells. There are 30 million or so of them in the nose. The hairs move around in a thin film of mucus. So, to come in contact with them, molecules from outside have to dissolve in the mucus, where they can trigger a message in the hairs. These hairs are so sensitive that just half a dozen molecules of some substances can enable us to smell them. When the hairs detect a smell, they send a message to a part of the brain just a few inches away. The air from outside sometimes bypasses the sensitive patch of cells, but we can increase the chances of smelling something by sniffing, to drag the air right up to the top of the nose. And like all sensations, the messages from the nose only really make sense once they arrive at the brain. It's here that we take a flow of nerve impulses and turn them into familiar or unfamiliar smells. The receptors in the nose link up with these long, thin outcrops of brain tissue. These carry the sensations further back into the brain. These two blobs of tissue and the parts of the brain they lead to take up less of our brain than in many animals. The smell is not as important to us. Instead, we've developed the senses of sight and hearing that use up far more of the brain and have become more useful. To detect even smaller numbers of molecules than we can, a dog with the same size nose as a human has 70 times the number of detectors. Even so, we can distinguish between 3,000 or so different smells.
Look at all that smell coming off the coffee. Was that impressive? That's a pretty old video. I would say that's many years older than y'all are. Try another one.
We can distinguish up to 10,000 different smells, which language is not equipped to describe.
10,000, he said.
How do you describe the smell of a sunny afternoon? Or a newborn baby? We are literally bathed in smells, as odor molecules are floating around us all the time. Every breath draws millions of these molecules up into the nostril. The stream of molecules winds its way right up to a small patch at the top of the nose. This area is packed with millions of nerve cells that can register smells. The odor molecules dissolve in the sticky mucus surrounding the tips of these cells. Each nerve ending is studded with tiny receptors that will react to only one specific kind of molecule. Once the odor molecules lock into the correct receptor, they trigger electrical impulses. These signals feed straight into the brain area that controls emotion and memory. That explains why smells are so good at bringing back memories and influencing our mood. The conscious part of the brain eventually translates all the electric signals from the nose into what we perceive as a smell. So ultimately, we smell with our brains.
You didn't like that smell. All right, that smell. Let's see a taste video.
The saliva spreads all over the tongue and can carry the molecules of food into many little pits on the surface. These pits surround the taste buds, collections of about 30 receptor cells. Some of these buds detect only one of the 4 basic tastes, but others can respond to several. The buds near the front detect sweetness, at the sides, sourness, a bitterness at the back, and salt on much of the surface and round the edges. These cells have a short life, but a merry one. Every few days, the cells in the taste buds die off and new ones develop. The sense of taste probably developed to help us detect poisons. Many of the most poisonous substances have a bitter taste, for example. But once tasted, we'd never want to try them again. But what actually triggers a message to the brain from these taste buds? How do molecules of food have an effect on these cells in the tongue? It's probably some chemical property of the food molecules, shape or electrical charge, for example, that sends a signal when they make contact with the cells deep in the taste bud. As the saliva washes past tiny pits on the surface of the taste bud, some of the molecules of food trigger these individual taste receptor cells.
Okay, that was pretty bad too. You get the point. All right. You getting all that, Trey?
Got it.
Good stuff, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, you can stop that.